Hi, this is Dr. Keefe with MMPC, and today I'm going to do a quick web movie on the problem list. I think we have a ways to go in our use of the problem list, and I'd like to encourage the community and to start using it correctly in all facets of it and show you some tips that might help you do so. So, I think most of us are familiar with the active problem list, something that is there on most of our patients. But what I think most of us don't use too much is the past medical history, past surgical history, family history, and social history. And I think that's in part because many of you don't have good favorites set up in order to add those quickly. And I see a lot of free texting into the family history and social history in particular. So what I want to show you is how to edit these as you're going through, how to create active problem lists that don't stay forever, um, and things of that nature. So the way to start your problem list is either to click on the new button or right click in this free space anywhere in here. And then what you're going to see is your favorite list pull up. And I've gone through and created my favorite list, which is very cardiology focused. Um, but I created a past surgical history that is in part cardiology focused and a family history and a social history that I think most could use. And what I'd like to have you do is if you like either my favorites for the social history or family history, we'll just copy these to you. Um, so the first thing I want to do is show you how to edit your favorites. And for example, here's my social history where I've put in various marital status um, problems. I've put in living situations, exercise habits, um, alcohol, drug, tobacco, work, that type of thing. And just to show you, if I were to change my marital history, I would right-click on it and unfavorite something. So I could go through and remove all my marital history problems. Or, similarly, now if I leave the social history and come back, all that will be gone. If you were trying to create your own problem list and you wanted to have marital history, you could just type in married, and then you'll see every social history problem that Allscripts has available to you for marital history. So you could just then go through and pick the ones you like by clicking on it, right click and adding it as a favorite. And I'll just quickly go through here and add ones that I like. And now when I go back to my social history, those ones are back there. Okay, so a lot of you may have a blank or only have a few things in the social history. And again, if you want my list, I will copy it forward to you, and you could email me or Ted Ramsey at MMPC, and we'll take care of that for you. Same thing with family history. I asked some of the primary care doctors what are some simple family history things that they would want in, and they mentioned colon cancer, breast cancer, cancer in general, um, diabetes, sudden death, coronary artery disease. So I have a family history that's pretty simple, and you can again make this more detailed if you wanted to put in lymphoma, then you could just add lymphoma. You could add Hodgkin's disease, and those will then be on your family history. There's Hodgkin's disease right there, and there's malignant lymphoma. Okay, so again, if your family history is blank, or your social history is blank, then you can go ahead and you will copy these ones forward to you if you like, and it's at least a good starting point. Same thing with surgical history. When I had a surgical history initially, I think my favorites just had hundreds of them, and I deleted them all and just put in some basic ones, so that I can do, total knee arthroplasty, hernia, some basic surgeries that are, hysterectomy. And what you see is when I type in a few words like that, it'll first search my favorites. So if I type TO, those are the things in my favorites, and it'll pull those right up. If I then want to search total, or if I want to search knee, for example, and I hit return, it's going to give me everything that there is for the knee. So that's the way that it'll search, is it'll first search for what's in your favorite list, and then it will go on to everything else that's in the whole database. Okay. Same thing with past medical history. I actually haven't built my list up too much in this, but I easily could if I wanted to say they had a past history of Hashimoto's thyroiditis. I can add that, and then I can add that as a favorite. Okay, and for this patient, I'll say that they've had it. So if I go back to my past medical history, we'll see Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Okay, so now that I've created these various things in my family history and social history, when I'm seeing this patient, it's quite easy for me to just say, oh yes, they have a family history of coronary artery disease and type 2 diabetes. And from their social history, it's easy for me to just click they're married, they're exercising regularly, they're a former smoker, they're retired from work, they drink 2 drinks a day. I can double click on it, add it into this description, and then I'll go to their family history, which I've added. I'll check their past surgical history, which I've added, and now I'm set there. So now I go back and I take a look at the problem list, and it's much better for this patient. Okay, we actually have a lot of the things in the family and social history, and that will be there in your note, or if someone else is using the patient, they will have access to this patient's medical history, which will be accurate, which is great. So a few more things on the favorites, moving into the active problems, which is probably where you want the best favorite list you can get. So I have a pretty large list, but I wanted to just turn your attention to this little button right here. This is called the quick list. So in your quick list, what you might have is your 10 or so, however you want to do it, top diagnoses. So these might be my as a cardiologist, top 10 diagnoses in my quick list, so that if I'm seeing a patient with typically coronary disease, hypertension, hyperlipidemia, it's quite easy to add those to their problem list. Okay, and that's there for any of the areas. If you want to have a large favorite list in your social history, but a small quick list, you can do that. Okay, so that's a useful thing to use if you want, and you can do that for any of those. And the way to add to your quick list would be just to right-click on it, and right below the favorite item, you have a quick list. So I added dilated cardiomyopathy to my quick list. If I now go here, there it is. Okay. Or if I want to remove it, I just click on it again, and if I click back to my active problem favorite list, it will no longer be there. Okay. So I'm going to go back now to my favorites, and I see here that depression is listed twice. That was an error by someone. So I'm just going to right-click on it, and I'm going to change status to enter an error. And that will remove it entirely from the active problem list. If, on the other hand, I want to say, well, this patient had atrial fibrillation and flutter 20 years ago, but it has never recurred, I might want to add that to their past medical history because it's no longer an active problem. So I can resolve it. And when I resolve it, it's going to go in the past medical history. Okay. Now, if I wanted to, for some reason, also have something in the active problems and past medical history, then I could right-click on it, and I could include it in the past medical history, and now it's in both. Okay, so you can imagine there might be conditions that are active problems now, and they also maybe happened in the past. Okay, so you can remove things by hitting enter and error. You can resolve them to put them in the past medical history, and you can hit add to past medical history so that they are in both. So the final thing I wanted to show you is how to add problems that don't necessarily stay forever, because what I see is a lot of people are adding problems that may be more symptoms or short-term things or very minor illnesses, and then they just get left there because no one ever deletes them, and when they're created they're just put as indefinite active problems, like you can imagine sore throat, sore elbow, um, you know, pharyngitis. These are pretty minor things that we don't necessarily want a year later to be in someone's active problem list. So let's say the patient is coming in with acute pharyngitis. Okay, so I'm going to add this to their problem list. Now, what most people would do is simply click on it, and then it's going to add it to their problem list. And then 6 months later, when they see another doctor, it's still going to be on their problem list. So what I would recommend we do is for short-term problems is that you double-click on it, and you can say the onset date. You could put it as today, or you could put it, if it didn't actually start today, it started Friday, you could actually put an accurate date on it. And then have a resolve date. And if you suspect you're giving this patient antibiotics and it's going to be gone in a week, then simply change the resolve date to a week, and then it will go in their past medical history. It'll be in your active problem list, but in 2 weeks it will be in the past medical history. So that's something that I think would just be good etiquette for the other doctors using the system, is to not clutter up the problem list with previously active problems, especially minor ones. So that was my quick web movie for today, Problem List, and I encourage everyone to start using it. If you want favorites, if you liked my family history, social history, or past surgical history, you can email me or Ted Ramsey, and we'll take care of that for you. Thanks a lot.